Good afternoon, guys. My name is Gaven Simon. I'm here with the Logistics Viewpoints podcast. I'm joined by Tab Dayani. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Happy to be here.
Good. We're about, I would say, day 1.5 if you include yesterday's introductions of the ICON 2026 event hosted by Blue Yonder. I've met with Tab and we've spoken a few times because we share passion for sustainability and supply chain.
Gavin and I go way back.
So I wanted to speak with you about Blue Yonder and your sustainability work. But before we get to that fun stuff, I wanted to hear more about your background, your experiences, and how you found yourself here at Blue Yonder.
Yeah, sure. So I've spent the last decade plus at the intersection of sustainability, supply chain, and technology in different permutations and combinations of that, all of the different phases of supply chain, from facilities to procurement to transportation, when I started off, I started off my career in supply chain consulting, and at that point, it was a little bit further back before I think sustainability really took off as like a key business priority as it's become more and more, especially more recently. But at the time, it was a passion of mine, and it was something I'd always been interested in, and it would be something that I would just kind of shoehorn into projects whether or not somebody wanted it. And a lot of times people would respond positively to it. Sometimes people would be like, that's nice, but I don't really care. That was just the way that I did it, not obviously for the businesses that I was consulting for, but also for me a little bit. And then just more and more it kind of grew into my main role. And then as I joined Blue Yonder, it kind of became my more my full-time, like really the right in the middle of that sustainability, supply chain, technology Venn diagram kind of became my my core just my core job function. So it really worked out perfectly.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So I know you've been with Blue Yonder for about 2 years. Do you have any things that you want to share of like some of your biggest accomplishments or some of the projects that you've been a part of that you're proud of?
Yeah, I'd say that in terms of biggest accomplishments, Blue Yonder is such a large machine, a real juggernaut for supply chain management. And there's so many different products, so many different people across global teams and global parts of the supply chain. There are tools that do like end-to-end supply chain planning, and there are tools that focus very granularly on a specific function and sub-function, sometimes even for a specific industry instead of use cases, right? So, kind of finding where the opportunities lay for our customers and where can we generate the most impact from a sustainability perspective, and then going and working with the global teams to build that, especially in our planning tools, our TMS tools, and our network control tower tools. I'd say it's not, I guess, a single accomplishment, but really just the sum of all of it, because it's so wide, both functionally and across so many different teams. And I mean that's kind of the crux of sustainability in general, right? Is it cuts across every industry, every function. Kind of actualizing that at Blue Yonder has been both very, I guess, eye-opening for me, but also something that I've been able to take a lot of pride in, because we've been able to accomplish a lot in terms of embedding sustainability into all of those applications and functions. So
yeah, I mean, aside from sustainability, what I've been hearing and what I know about Blue Yonder is the opportunities for getting these customers on the network and having it from end to end, so you have that full visibility into all the different verticals such as WMS or supply chain planning, and then within that you have sustainability inherently, and I think supply chain and sustainability go hand in hand, and so you're playing a part in all of those pieces, and you're the voice to help these companies recognize, if they don't recognize it already, the sustainability benefits that they can achieve with Blue Yonder.
Yeah, and it's that's absolutely spot on. And I think that looking back at where like I said before, when I started my career, it was very much I was shoehorning sustainability manually into projects that I was doing. And when people were making decisions or trying to plan ahead, it was something that I would manually try and do some analysis on and give them some insight, right? But I can see like how that's transitioned. And as I'm at Blue Yonder, right, this is the technology tool that a lot of our customers, which are generally like the global 1,000 manufacturers, retailers, and LSPs, this is the tools that they use to make these supply chain decisions at scale. And being able to, I loved doing that analysis manually, but realistically at scale, I mean, there's only one of me, and I can't go to every company and be like, oh, let me just hand do everything for you. Like that's not the way it could ever really work in real life. So being able to kind of automate the analysis and the insights type work that I was doing at the beginning of my career, and seeing it like, oh wow, this really works without me even like having to do any manual intervention, has been really cool to see.
Yeah. Let's talk about what's happening here on the grounds of Icon. What are the sustainability presentations or customers that you're bringing to the show to basically have the customer speak on your behalf?
Yeah, no, well, we had definitely a few call outs on the main stage in the keynote earlier today. Sainsbury's talked about, their food waste priorities and obviously carbon emissions as well. As one of the biggest grocery retailers in the UK, like food waste and carbon emissions, obviously a huge priority. But, hearing that called out, I think was, it's always good. We know that it's a business priority, but it's not always something that is put front and center, especially because, there are so many business priorities, especially for someone like a Sainsbury's, right? So to get that call out is really awesome.
Did he not say sustainability is the baseline, as in it's expected? I think from being somebody who has shopped at Sainsbury, being able to read the carbon emissions is always such an interesting experience as a consumer who works in sustainability. I love to see that type of stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because especially in Europe, we start to see these types of regulations like digital product passport and stuff like that, that is increasingly requiring retailers, some folks like Sainsbury's might be a bit ahead of the game, but eventually this is going to have to be the new normal, the new standard for everyone. Seeing how they're kind of like taking the lead on that front is really awesome. So it's cool to get that shout out. Pepsi, we've been partnering with really well. They're also kind of a global leader on sustainability. And as Blue Yonder and Pepsi have kind of started on this journey towards a really deep partnership across a lot of that end-to-end supply chain management that you mentioned, not only across end-to-end supply chain functions, procurement, transportation, facilities, distribution, production, et cetera, but also from the lenses of both planning and execution through post-execution. And so being able to embed sustainability within all of those and as part of the end-to-end network to get value in a way that's not only like within those activities themselves, but in a way that, hey, if you put all this together, you can do things like generate product level carbon footprint. You can, with the end-tier network, be able to understand your sources of like ESG and supplier risk and labor risk and all of that stuff. So, I could go on and on about the great opportunities that exist within that, within that framework. But yeah, Pepsi was another good one. I think.
Didn't you mention World Health Organization is going to be here?
I think, WHO is also here. And I know that Saskia, our Chief Sustainability Officer, is going to be speaking with Red Cross at tomorrow's, I think, closing keynote. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Novalex, who also won our Blue Yonder Iconic Sustainability Award this year. And they've been using our planning tool to realize a lot of sustainability efficiencies, reduce carbon emissions, reduce waste across their end-to-end supply chain planning. So that's been really awesome to see as well.
That's awesome. Beyond Icon, what are some of the plans? What are you guys working on? I know maybe we can tack on the Pledge acquisition and integrating Pledge into Blue Yonder, and how is that journey and where is that headed towards in the next year?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll start off by saying this, which is I think the acquisition of Pledge, which happened last year by Blue Yonder, now we've rebranded to the Logistics Emissions Calculator, or LEC for short, fits within a broader priority of ours, which is true end-to-end integration and being able to manage synchronously across applications and functions your supply chain and sustainability management, and true unification across functions and inclusive of sustainability. So, the Logistics Emissions Calculator is a best-in-class, SFC and GLEC accredited transportation emissions calculator. Having that integrated within our transportation management solution and our network tool, as we've done over the last year, provides a lot of value to customers to be able to get those sustainability insights at the time of decision making at a level of granularity that's accredited and super very high fidelity calculations, right? So that integration has definitely been something that's really awesome, because not only can customers use our logistics emissions calculator as a standalone tool, no other Blue Yonder stuff required, but they can also get the insights from that tool in the tools and in the workflows and processes that their supply chain teams are already using for decision making. You don't need to go somewhere else. You can just use the tool that you're already using, right? But then in the same way, I think part of our, our roadmap also includes things like how do we manage plans versus actuals, right? Across our planning and execution applications. I have sustainability in each of these individually, but how can I, as we start to link these solutions together, make sure the sustainability impact from that also gets linked? So When I'm making my plan, I can forecast what do I think will happen, both from a supply chain and sustainability perspective.
Right.
Through execution, what actually happened. And then, in our network tool, we have all of these carrier and supplier collaboration modules. So how can I augment what actually happened with the exact information, from the people that actually executed on that activity, and then contextualize all of that. What did I think would happen? What actually happened with our customers' sustainability performance goals, and they can see, hey, what actually happened? Does that line up with the carbon reductions and waste reductions that I need in order to meet my goals? Or am I off track and I'm going to have to do a little bit better to hit those targets?
Right. I'll ask you just this one last question. And as a sustainability professional who has been researching the market trends, there has definitely been a step back in terms of the communications, the marketing, and I would say the brand awareness of sustainability and companies promoting some of their sustainability strategies. My perspective, I believe that Blue Yonder has kept its promise, and I'm very interested to understand how you're helping Blue Yonder keep its promise, and how are you helping your customers keep on track for their sustainability goals as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think one of the things that I really admire about Blue Yonder is that even in the, let's say, the new political landscape in the US especially, Blue Yonder has still hey, sustainability isn't something that we, change our mind with the direction the winds are blowing. It's a strategic priority that's a long-term development priority for us. So, we've continued to invest in building out our sustainability capabilities as well as that muscle within our organization. And I think the way that, our customers have responded to that is, number one, very positively. And two, I think that it takes a couple of different forms because, yes, I think, in the US too, especially, our customers may be a little less vocal about how they prioritize sustainability, but in the background, in their supply chain teams and internal process management in their organization, it still is very much a priority. They still have these commitments. There are some companies that have scaled them back, but at the end of the day, the commitments are still there. They still have to measure and report. They still have to improve performance, and they still need Blue Yonder to help them do those things. And additionally, I'd say, I feel like I live in the business case of sustainability every day because it's sustainability for sustainability's sake. Might have been good when the, sustainability was the big buzzword of the year a few years ago, right? But now it really boils down to, the thing is, the business case has always been there and continues to be there. Customers continue to buy carbon offsets or renewable energy credits. There's so many statistics that show hey, if you have a higher ESG score, you get access to different sources of capital. You can lower your cost of capital by about 0.5% if you have a high sustainability score versus a low one. And 0.5% doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking about how that affects your financials when you're dealing with billions, trillions of dollars, it's it ends up being a lot. So same thing with companies that prioritize ESG end up being more resilient from a supply chain perspective as well. They're able to respond to events COVID and that type of thing a lot better. So we see that, yes, while it's been kind of a little bit quieter front-facing, it's just as much a priority behind the scenes. And from a business case perspective, it's just a matter of framing it. And also, I think part of what's great about our product is that the perception of sustainability, I think historically has been hey, I have to sacrifice something in order to improve on sustainability. But a lot of times there's actually a lot you can do within the margins of hey, you can retain your profitability, you can keep your lead time and supply chain efficiency and still solve for sustainability, but you have to you have to be able to measure it and view it and incorporate it into your decision making. And by doing that, by unifying sustainability and supply chain, you can achieve those things without having to sacrifice the other things that are traditional business priorities.
Wow. that was great. I really appreciate it. And I think we both know, and you all know, that sustainability and supply chain is a synergistic relationship, and it's a very pragmatic viewpoint, and you're able to visually and conceptually visualize how sustainability can be implemented through your supply chain operations. And I will continue to research and talk with Blue Yonder, and I hope to speak with you next year to hear about what you guys are all doing on the sustainability side and on the supply chain management side overall. So thank you so much, Tab. I really appreciate your time.